Hi, this is Jacek, and in this PHP tutorial I'm going to be showing you, explaining the basics of null byte injection and show the potential problems that it can cause for your site or system or whatever it is you're making. So we're going to be using this example system here to demonstrate this, and what it essentially is a template system. So this is the index.php file, and we're just setting a single get variable called example, which I haven't highlighted correctly. There we go. And what this does is includes a text file here. Well, this is the name of the text file, and this is the contents of the text file. And if we just go to the code, you can see how this works. Essentially, it just checks to see if a file is specified, and if it is, it outputs a header tag just saying contents of and then the file name, and then it includes that file. Now, you may think that this is fairly secure because of the .txt extension. So ideally, basically this means that any sort of potential attacker will only be able to include .txt files, and if you don't have any text files on your server other than these pages, then there's nothing really that they can do. That's not exactly true because of this null byte injection thing that I'm going to explain. But the reasons why this works are quite sort of technical, so I'm not going to go into that too much. But essentially, adding a null byte in a string in PHP will sort of chop off the end of the string, if you like. So the reason for this is because in C, programming language C, which the PHP compiler is written in, a null byte marks the end of a string. So, when PHP is sort of compiled and processed, null bytes are treated as end of strings. Sort of. So to demonstrate this, I'm just going to add a null byte, and you'll see what happens. So if we go back to my browser window, and you see we have files, so this is including the example.txt file. If we just change this to example %00, which is the code for a null byte, hit enter, you can see that we're getting contents of pages/example.txt, but we're getting a warning that include pages/example has not been found. So without the .txt extension here. So you can see that the null byte is essentially chopped off the end of the string. So the problem with this is that now we can essentially include any file. For example, if we can include my etc/password file, again just by sending the null byte and the path to the file. Need the null byte there. You can see without the null byte that it tells you that it doesn't exist with the .txt extension. But if we add it, you can see that it chops off the end of the string, and we get my etc password file. So this essentially allows the user to include any file that they want, which is obviously a very serious problem because, as I explained in the file include security video, it allows code execution via some sort of awkward method, and also they can, when they do that, they can basically do anything they want to your site. They can deface it, they can just destroy it, remove the whole thing, whatever, steal your users' passwords, all kinds of bad stuff. And the solution to this problem is actually the same as it was for the file include tutorial, and that is to specify a whitelist, or in this case we're going to generate a whitelist, and then compare what they supply in the get variable against that whitelist. So what we're going to do is scan the directory, the pages directory, and see if what they supply is in that list of files. So to get the list of files, we're going to use the scan dir function. So I'm going to define a new variable. I'm going to call it files, and this is going to be equal to scan dir, and the directory that we want to scan is the parameter we pass in, and that is the pages directory. And now if I just add down here a print _r of files, this will show us which files we have in that array. So if I just remove this file variable for now to make it a bit clearer, you can see that the files we have are a dot, a double dot, and example.txt. The dot and the double dot just mean the current directory and the directory above, and these are always returned by this function. Ideally we want to remove them, because if the user supplies a double dot for the file variable, they will get an error. So if I just add file equals dot, you can see that this error has occurred because this is not a valid file. So what we can do to remove these is just unset them using the unset function, which just unsets a variable, i.e. removes its value. So we can do unset it takes an unlimited number of parameters, so we can pass in files 0 and, with a comma, files 1, which will just remove the first two elements. And if we reload our page now, you can see this array has been sort of shortened, so now we just have element 2 example.txt. Overall there's just one element. So now we can check what they supply, which in this case is a double dot, against this list using the inArray function. So here, well, we can remove this print_r because that was just for demonstration. After we've verified that the user has specified a file, we can then do another check using the AND thingy for using the inArray function. So if that and inArray, the inArray function takes two parameters. The first one is what you're looking for in the array, and the second one is the array to look in. So the first thing we want to do, well, the first parameter is going to be the file name. Now this has to be the actual file name. So if you notice in the array, it's example.txt, but they supply, well, what they would supply is just example, like so. So we need to add the .txt to this first parameter to make it sort of work. So we're just going to, in double quotes, we're going to first use the variable, so get file, and then after that the extension, which was just .txt. And the second parameter is the array we want to look in, which is files. And this will mean that now the file will only be included if it's in that folder. And because this works sort of separately from any user input, they won't be able to affect that list of files, and they won't be able to include anything that isn't in that folder. So, oops, wrong thingy. So if we just reload this page now, you can see that the first example, including the example.txt file, works. But if we add a file that doesn't exist, let's say not example, that doesn't work because that file doesn't exist. But more importantly, if we add the sort of exploit, again that doesn't work. See, because that file doesn't exist in that folder. So that's just something to consider. You need to sort of think about this for any file system functions. They are generally the ones that are affected by this null byte injection problem. So yeah, that's basically it. So thank you for watching, and hopefully this was useful.